Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. It is now almost 20 minutes past 1 a.m. and I'm reporting from the concentration camp here in Zurich that I've been put in by Markus Seiler and Andrew Parker, latter head of MI6. I would like to, I know I look like an absolute mess, and also I had to put in extra protection here because I realized I was being hit on the head somehow through the ceiling. I just wanted to make a quick broadcast. It's really off the cuff, just for all the other victims who are as heavily mutilated as I've been today. So every night I crawl into a bunker I had to make for myself. And it's basically a cheap IKEA desk, the cheapest you can get, placed on top of my bed. And it's such that I have this square box. I can make a square box where I put these big aluminium panels, which are moving boxes wrapped in aluminium, such that you've got 6 either side, so 12 layers of aluminium. And I place those next to the table, and I've got them on top of the table and behind. And then I put mylar on top and aluminium sheets, as many as I can. And then I crawl inside, and every night, throughout the night, I listen to the electromagnetic machine gun shots bounce off the shielding. And because I've got a mirror opposite my bed, they also use the mirror to just shoot into this bunker that I'm in every single night. And they continue shooting all throughout the night. They just turn on a machine that just keeps targeting you. And when you're being assaulted by the military like that, there's no way to protect yourself. There really isn't. It's extremely hard. Sometimes I have to put an aluminium panel also on the opening where I climb in, but then you don't have much air. So imagine you live in the 21st century. You try really hard. You tried really hard to just improve things, make things better. You're now trying really hard to help people. And you are being literally mutilated to death by a group of criminals in the intelligence agencies. I'm now here in Zurich. Therefore, the mutilation program here is run by Markus Seiler, head of the Nachrichtendienst des Bundes. And I can tell you from what I have seen, the way they operate is that they round on the best and brightest. They pick people. Most of their victims are women, it seems, internationally speaking. And all intelligence agencies are acting in exactly the same way. They round on women, and I think that is for extra sexual titillation. So there are a lot of really sick and degenerate men in our society, and a lot in the intelligence agencies, who are arousing themselves by watching, hardworking, bright, women just being mutilated to death. And they just love watching how women really try to do good work and yet they don't succeed. It's like people having a power wank over the glass ceiling with extra mutilation. So it's not just that you don't pay women the same, you actively mutilate them and you watch it. So that is what Markus Seiler is now running here in Zurich. That is what Andrew Parker is running in Britain. And that is what Dr. Bruno Kahl, and before him Gerhard Schindler, is running in Germany. It's a mutilation program of mostly women and a lot of children for the power wank of sad, degenerate old fucks in our society. And I think the downside of having the baby boomers, which is this huge bulge in our demographics, those are, people in their 60s, 70s, and so on, who had it all. After the war, they didn't have problems getting jobs because all people had been murdered. They just walked into a job. The house prices boomed, so they got rich on just a house that they bought for something that these days is the price of a car. And yes, and these people had it all. And now they are so rich and feckless and utterly fucking degenerate that they don't know what the F to do with their life. So they're just sitting on their riches and think, I really need a power wank because I am useless. And then they probably buy porn off the intelligence agencies And my best understanding of what's going on is that the intelligence agencies implant, mostly women, also some guys, with chips in their rectum, their vagina, on their head, you know, in their eyes, in their ears, everywhere around their body. And then rich degenerate old fucks can set off these things on their mobile phone, and rich fucks can come and sit in a surveillance flat near the victim. And then, you know, the intelligence agencies are also training up young degenerates, trainee degenerates. These are, you know, youth in their teenage years, early 20s, and they are teaching them how to mutilate people to death, how to run terror campaigns, and how to systematically destroy people's lives through slander campaigns, through non-stop abrasion, non-stop terrorism, through microwave mutilation by punching, you know, very cheap military electromagnetic weapons through the walls of their home at them, and how to gang up on people. And basically the intelligence agencies are now training up the scum of society how to mutilate to death and take apart the hardworking part of society. So if we zoom out and you think about what does that look like, that looks like what the intelligence agencies have always done. And that's what the Gestapo did in Germany. They managed to put in mechanisms whereby Germany was destroyed. The Stasi put in mechanisms whereby at the end of the day, East Germany was destroyed. And on and on and on. And in every single country that was demolished, it was always the intelligence agencies and the military. Because the truth is that the intelligence agencies are a bunch of psychopathic serial killers, and the military are a bunch of brutish, degenerate, dumb fucks. I think that's the best way of putting it. And that seems to be it. So I'm sorry, I don't have makeup, so you can see all the, you know, all the injuries, and I'm really tired. But I would like you, and also it's boiling hot at even 1:30 a.m. here in Zurich, so that's why I'm wearing what I'm wearing, which is not very much. So I'm sorry about that, but I want to, instead of focusing on me, focus on my words, and I want to show you a little video here. Let me just share my screen in a moment. Wearing what I'm wearing, which is not very much. Hang on, I'm sorry, I've just realized you already wrote some comments. Let me just have I considered lead shielding? Yes, I have, but I can't afford it. It's really expensive. Okay. I am in my aluminium cocoon, and honestly, it makes you feel better when you're being microwaved. Honestly. Is there any other useful questions? Let's see. Okay. Some of those chips are needle cameras. I think, yes, there's a lot of bugging. And okay, my perps claim to be mafia and dug under my house. Try shielding downward. Actually, that's a very good point. That's a very good point, because yes, also a lot of victims notice that there's, for example, work with the pipes and so on, or roadworks near where they live, and that's exactly it. I think they're putting down some sort of weapons also that can be triggered from underground. I think that's true. Okay, but let's just see. So I've just got the message that some people are being blocked from watching the video. I think they might be able to see it later, so don't worry about it for now. But in the meantime, let me just continue recording this. Let me share my screen and let me show you a video. It's just 4 minutes, but I would like you to watch it with me, and then I'll just comment on it, on what's wrong with it, even though it's a very good video. So now watch. The video I would like to show you is here. This website here is, oops, it's on mind control technology. It's called youarenotmybigbrother.blog. Okay, and this is on mind control technologies. And then down here is a YouTube video. Okay, and I just want to show you this here. the new Phoenix program. That's what it is.
The Vietnam War was the formative experience for a generation of CIA and military intelligence personnel involved in the Phoenix program. They viewed the military defeat in Vietnam as a betrayal on the home front, a loss of will by domestic political enemies, not a military failure against a nationalistic revolution fought as a guerrilla war. The Phoenix program, assassinating suspected VC sympathizers in a systematic manner, worked well and is the blueprint for the current black operation, targeting thousands of loyal Americans using state-of-the-art microwave and radio frequency radiation weapons. The motivation to suppress domestic dissidents and to assassinate loyal American opposition stems from the perception of dissent against the war as treason. This philosophy is stated very clearly in the Mind War paper written by Michael Aquino. The Department of Defense has a huge stake in futuristic technology that kills by ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, leaving little or no trace. The indiscriminate killing of the Phoenix program continues on American soil. The terms soft kill, slow kill, and silent kill refer to the new way of killing the enemy in conflicts short of war and the small wars of the future. The counterinsurgency doctrine has now been applied to the home front so that the perceived betrayal of the military in Vietnam will not be repeated. The generation of CIA and military intelligence led by Shackley, Helms, Casey, Singlab, Secord, John B. Alexander, Michael Aquino, Paul Vallely, and others have built the perfect beast using selective assassination that leaves no trace. The ability to cull the human herd with silent kill technology allows a few personalities to remake the entire society in their own image. Extremely low frequency technology slowly drives the target crazy with silent sound, similar to the CIA MKUltra psychiatrist Ewan Cameron's psychic driving technique used to break down the target's personality. The new buzzwords at the Pentagon are synthetic telepathy and psychotronics. Another means of attack on targets is the Smirnov patent that uses subliminal suggestion to manipulate human behavior. This patent was purchased by the remote viewing company SciTech Corporation. Military intelligence officers involved in developing these non-lethal weapons also control SciTech. Emotional manipulation is accomplished using Dr. Michael Persinger's work to remotely project emotional states that the brain entrains or locks onto and emulates. One can broadcast rage or fear at an individual target to manipulate and control them. As if these methods were not enough to torture and murder people, add to this nightmarish toolbox active gang stalking. CIA-created cults and other cause-oriented groups are used by actively harassing them in public in a neutralization technique described in counterintelligence operations manuals that are aimed at enemy agents. In the race to develop a new weapon, it has always been necessary to test it on human beings. Perfecting the latest weapons designed to kill slowly and silently, as well as perfecting the process of controlling the human mind, are no different. Once the weaponry has been perfected on these few thousand people, the same techniques will be applied en masse to the general population, and then to humanity as a whole.
That's correct. That is correct. And now, what I would like to do is, I would like to go through, sorry, I was just sitting here and listening. I would like to go through and actually say, I mean, everything in this was correct, but there's one piece missing here, okay? And that's really, really important if you want to understand this entire targeting business, okay? So I'm going to go through the film again, and I'm going to put in the bits that are missing, and then suddenly it will all become clear, okay? So let's just go back And now I'm going to give the commentary of what's missing.
The Vietnam War was the formative experience for a generation of CIA and military intelligence personnel involved in the Phoenix program. They viewed the military defeat in Vietnam as a betrayal on the home front, a loss of will by domestic political enemies, not a military failure against a nationalistic revolution fought as a guerrilla war. The Phoenix program, assassinating suspected VC sympathizers in a systematic manner, worked well and is the blueprint for the current black operation, targeting thousands of loyal Americans using state-of-the-art microwave and radio frequency radiation weapons. The motivation to suppress domestic dissidents and to assassinate loyal American opposition stems from the perception of dissent against the war as treason.
Okay, now let's just go back. So they are talking about the fact that the defeat in the Vietnam War, remember here, right, you know, was considered to be due to domestic dissidents, right, a lack of support.
And military intelligence personnel involved in the Phoenix program. They viewed the military defeat in Vietnam as a betrayal on the home front, a loss of will by domestic political enemies.
Okay. Now, what's missing here, and what has been missing in the heads of all those who went to Vietnam, is what the fuck are we doing in Vietnam? We're Americans, right? What the fuck are we doing in Vietnam? And the answers that we've been given, are they actually holding up? Because then, fast forward to now, all these soldiers seem to lack the question of, what the fuck are we doing in Afghanistan? What the fuck are we doing in Afghanistan when we're told that a bunch of Saudis flew planes into towers that then vanished? And one of them collapsed such that its collapse was announced 20 minutes beforehand by the BBC in the UK. What the fuck are we doing in Afghanistan? And then what the fuck are we doing in Iraq? So what is missing in this picture that answers those questions? Why were the people in Vietnam? You know, and if Vietnam is long before your time, ask yourself, why are people in Iraq? And it is for the oil, amongst others, right? So there's some big business that wants the oil. And what did they want in Afghanistan? Well, have you any idea how much opium is needed for the medical industry? And have you heard about reports about Afghani farmers wanting to farm what they usually farm, but then being told by a bunch of black op guys that now they're going to produce this genetically modified, you know, poppy seed, and they're going to grow that, which grows like a marvel. And they're going to get less for it, but they have to grow it. And if they don't, they will be shot in the head. And that's because Afghanistan was pretty amazing for growing opium. So all these people who say there seems to be, you know, political dissent and whatnot, that for this reason, that's why the Vietnam War failed. No, you're missing something. You're missing the big fat corporations who had totally different plans. It was never about the Viet Cong. It was one big fat experiment of how to exterminate people. And all the methods that were honed in Vietnam were then used also in Latin America, right? These were big fat experiments, and now they continue. And now, after all these dead bodies elsewhere, they are now coming home. Do you think that for steamrolling American military, really, it would have been any match? No, there were other things going on. Remember, they control both sides. And you didn't notice, but Vietnam actually went according to plan, because being too successful was never the plan. There are other objectives here. So now there seems to be this big fat program and people are being, shot up. And then look at these people. Look at this guy. I mean, isn't this like, the Addams Family? Just look carefully.
War paper.
Look at her. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. What's going on with the eyebrow?
Department of Defense has a huge stake.
That is straight out of the Addams Family, isn't it? I mean, that this guy is a Satanist and was such a sadistic psychopath that he was thrown out of the Church of Satan. You can search that as well, but something else is going on. And when you look at these people, what is missing
in futurist,
when they're listing all these different, where's the bit where they're listing all the different generals, what you might be missing is that all of those guys are actually criminals. And what we're watching here in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, are the movements of a massive organized crime cartel.
Technology that kills by ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, leaving little or no trace. The indiscriminate killing of the Phoenix program continues on American soil.
Look at this. Do you think this woman is a threat to anything or anybody? No, that's not what it is. It's an organized crime cartel following other objectives. And I can tell you that criminals have very little time for scientific research. So this is not human experimentation, right? What this is, it's extermination by an organized crime cartel. And when you've understood that, you'll understand the following.
The terms soft kill, slow kill, and silent kill refer to the new way of killing the enemy in conflicts short of war.
The enemy. Remember the woman? She is the enemy. Who could she be the enemy to, for God's sake? This is not about killing the enemy. It's about an overpowerful, organized crime cartel killing whoever they want.
And the small wars of the future. The counterinsurgency doctrine has now been applied to the home front.
Look at these people. Look at these people. They are the victims of a massive organized crime cartel that exterminates them at will because the police doesn't stop them. And why does the police and the military not stop these criminals?
So that the perceived betrayal of the military in Vietnam will not be repeated. The generation of CIA and military intelligence led by Shackley, Helms, Casey, Singlab, Secord, John B. Alexander, Michael Aquino, Paul Vallely, and others have...
The people you just seen are the heads of organized crime. They are criminals running a criminal organization. You just saw the mafia bosses. That's what's missing. They are criminals doing criminal things. We don't have real military leaders anymore. We have criminals. And these were people in the US, but I'm telling you, it repeats everywhere in Europe.
Have built the perfect beast using selective assassination that leaves no trace.
Perfect for criminal, isn't it? Who could possibly want to mutilate and murder these children? Sadistic, psychopathic criminals. That's who.
The ability to cull the human herd with silent kill technology allows a few personalities to remake the entire society in their own image.
And what if these few personalities are serial killers and criminals. Our society will be remade in the image of serial killers and mafia bosses.
Extremely low-frequency technology slowly drives the target crazy with silent sound, similar to the CIA MKUltra psychiatrist Ewan Cameron's psychic driving technique.
That guy is a war criminal. He's a sadistic psychopath and a war criminal. He's not a scientist. He's a criminal working for the crime cartel.
Used to break down the target's...
The target? These were children. These were children. These demented criminals targeted children.
Personality. The new buzzwords at the Pentagon are synthetic telepathy and psychotronics.
Well, it follows that the Pentagon here is the headquarters of a criminal organization. It's a criminal organization.
Another means of attack on targets is the Smirnov patent that uses subliminal suggestion to manipulate human behavior.
Now imagine when our society is subliminally messaged by psychopathic serial killers and criminals.
This patent was purchased by the remote viewing company SciTech Corporation.
Hang on. Sorry. If you can just see this image here, it's roughly there. That's the all-seeing eye. Look carefully. There.
Military intelligence remote dimensions is the Smirnov patent
Let's see it
that
again.
uses
It's
subliminal
roughly here.
suggestion to manipulate human behavior. This patent was purchased by the remote viewing company SciTech Corporation.
All-seeing eye.
Military intelligence.
Now, what you have to know about the all-seeing eye symbol is actually, sorry, the beeping. Oh gosh, the beeping is my Geiger counter showing 73 microsievert being punched into my home. That's impressive. Yes, the Geiger counter alarm has been going off quite a lot recently. I seem to be hit by quite a lot of by a lot of radioactivity. So the all-seeing eye is actually the symbol of the mafia. It's the mafia, okay? Why? Because you'll see the all-seeing eye, as in the Holy Trinity as well, in the Vatican, at the top of the church. Now, the church has already been in deep capture for a very, very long time. So at the top, you'll have psychopaths and criminals. And when you can brainwash people, that's wonderful. You know, when criminals can talk victims into donating money, that's ideal. And that's why criminals were always attracted to the organized church. So at the top of the church by now, after thousands of years, we have criminals. And the symbols that they are now spreading, the all-seeing eye, that is the symbol of the mafia. Yes?
Officers involved in developing these non-lethal weapons also control SciTech. Emotional manipulation is accomplished using Dr. Michael Persinger's work to remotely project emotional states that the brain entrains or locks onto.
Hang on a second. What this guy has produced is a weapon that's against the Geneva Conventions. And it's being applied to civilians. What this guy has developed is something that's as dangerous as the atom bomb. And this guy freely talks about it. He's actually a war criminal. He's not a scientist, he's a criminal.
Project emotional states that the brain entrains or locks onto and emulates. One
And what he developed is being used by the mafia.
Can broadcast rage or fear at an individual target to manipulate and control them.
Do you remember all the lone shooters, right?
If these methods were not enough to torture and murder people, add to this nightmarish toolbox active gang stalking. CIA-created cults.
CIA-created cults. Very important. CIA-created cults.
And other cause-oriented groups are used by actively harassing them in public in a neutralization technique described in counterintelligence operations manuals that are aimed at enemy agents.
At enemy agents, but not at single moms. So what on earth is happening that these degenerates in the military are aiming these guns and these weapons at single moms?
In the race to develop a new weapon, it has always been necessary to test it on human beings. Perfecting.
But these weapons that they use on civilians now have been tested. They have been tested back in the 1970s. So 40 years on, you don't need any more testing. It's not testing. It's an extermination program run by the mafia.
The latest weapons designed to kill slowly and silently, as well as perfecting the process of controlling the human mind, are no different. Once the weaponry has been perfected on these few thousand people, the same techniques will be applied en masse to the general population and then to humanity as a whole.
That's right. Once the mafia is finished with a few thousand victims, the mafia is gonna go for more. That's what you have to understand. You have to get that. This is an organized crime cartel. And today I woke up to the patter of brutal shots from an electromagnetic machine gun hitting my shielding and hitting into my body. It's boiling hot here in Zurich, so I couldn't actually seal myself off completely because I needed fresh air. And my attackers used that to absolutely machine gun me to bits at night. They hit over and over parts of my head, continued to shoot into my head throughout the night, throughout the day. And then I left my home. I spoke to my colleague Ramola, who was also harassed. She went outside and was sitting on her deck outside when we were talking. And then at some point she said, just listen to this. My neighbors have both a pool party and also have a chainsaw running. Who on earth has a chainsaw running during a pool party? And that was noise harassment. And I left my home just to go to the shops because the shops are closed here in Switzerland on Sundays. So I just did some grocery shopping. I just walked, a very short distance to the shops, and I was just stalked and harassed. I was walking along the main road when I was brutally shot into the back of my head, and then a van just on this fast road just stopped and pulled up onto the pavement in front of me as demonstratively as possible. And then you walk past, and then the driver pretends to talk on a phone, and then you can see that he is also looking over to another teenage girl who's doing what I call the Stasi shuffle, just walking along without getting anywhere, because she's not going anywhere. She's just there for surveillance. And then bit by bit, as I was going towards the shops, I was joined by magically appearing groups of teenagers. 2 teenagers suddenly walk in front of me. There's a group of 4 teenagers just standing there loitering in the car park, not going anywhere. And then magically inside the shop, I'm being harassed. I come out, there's already a gang stalker waiting for me, setting off when I come out to walk demonstratively in front of me. And then you think, okay, where's this teenage, dunce head's handler? And you turn to the side and there's a guy standing in the middle of the car park, as demonstratively as possible, just on the phone talking. And then you walk on, you can see a second batch of senior handlers, and then you walk back, and you're just being surrounded by this crowd of people nonstop, and they choose whenever they want to harass you. And it's just unbelievable. So these people are not just there for me, they are harassing other innocent people in Switzerland. And when they're not harassing me, they go elsewhere, or they cluster in a flat nearby. And every victim sees the same thing. The intelligence agencies higher flats, they corrupt neighbors, and they shoot into you from neighbors. And they harass you with the neighbors. So corrupt neighbors are the staple. And Markus Seiler runs this program here. He is based on the things I've known, I've seen, and I now know about this program. I would say that he's a Nazi and a criminal. And based on the program that I've experienced and the fact that I was shot into the head repeatedly after my first High Court case against British intelligence, I would say that Andrew Parker is also a Nazi and a criminal. And so is Dr. Bruno Kahl and Gerhard Schindler, they are all running this mutilation program. And based on the number of victims and the victim reports and what I've seen, I would say that all of these people are Nazis and criminals. They are criminals because instead of fighting terrorism, they organize it. And they have organized the systematic takedown of our societies. The best and the brightest and the people with highest integrity are being mutilated to death. And as far as I can tell, with me, the program is neurological mutilation. So keep shooting into my head until I neurologically degrade. And that's being sold as porn to a couple of really sad, degenerate old farts. And overall, it's being used to utterly degrade and take down our societies. That's what it is. And they use the scum of the earth. The intelligence agencies are training up the dumbest, most corrupt teenagers you can imagine to just aim an electromagnetic machine gun at you. And you're defenseless. You are defenseless, and shoot into you at night so that by the time you wake up, you already have tumor growing inside you. And that will generate income for the pharma industry. But that is what the intelligence agencies are doing now. They are training up teenage death squads of utterly vacuous-headed ditzies and the most, degenerate dickheads you can imagine. That is what Andrew Parker, Markus Seiler, and Dr. Bruno Kahl are doing. And they are also implanting, especially women, in the vagina, in the rectal area, in their breasts, in their face, on their head, and many other places as well. And then they send the actual access protocol to mobile phones and computers so that these degenerate teenagers can just set off the chips inside victims and torture and torment them. And they sell the access, I presume, to degenerate rich fucks who can then have their personal slaves. Now, this system cannot be set up without the knowledge of the intelligence agencies, and the intelligence agencies did nothing to stop it, which makes them guilty of high treason. So the heads of all intelligence agencies where this program is being run are guilty of high treason. And they are Nazis and they are criminals. They have to be removed. And you have to understand that when you're listening to the testimony of the targeted individuals, the gang stalking is the national surveillance network. And as soon as you hear about the case of a targeted individual with the stalking, the mutilation with electromagnetic weapons, you know that the head of intelligence of that country and the top leadership of the intelligence agency and a lot of people below that in the military and the intelligence agencies are guilty of high treason. They are criminals and Nazis, and they need to be removed. I have been mutilated in the brain all day long whilst I'm trying to help other victims. And I have not been a dissident. I have been picked for the sexual titillation of a bunch of degenerate old farts who've amused themselves by harassing me in Oxford and set themselves as the goal of just yanking one off while they watch my career, my marriage, my family life being destroyed, my family being murdered, and me being physically mutilated to death. And meanwhile, they have a wank. So that's wonderful when you're 60 or 70-year-old, 80-year-old granddad who doesn't give a shit about anything but his next wank. But when you think about what do we need to actually repair society and tidy up the contamination with nanobots, with nanotechnology, and with, frankly, poison everywhere that's being pumped everywhere and being sprayed on us? You need the best and brightest. And when the best and brightest are being shredded for the sake of granddad's wank, then you literally have to jail the heads of intelligence. All heads of European intelligence and US intelligence have to be jailed for high treason. They are guilty of crimes against humanity, of war crimes, and of being not just Nazi sympathizers, some of them are into eugenics programs. And there are actual reports about that. So that's what we're faced with. I spent the entire day being mutilated on the orders of Markus Seiler, who runs the program here in Switzerland. And my colleague Karen Melton-Stewart is being mutilated on orders of the NSA. And the new head of the NSA, Admiral Mike Rogers, instead of stopping the mutilation of Karen Stewart, decided to continue it. It's in his power to stop it, but he chooses not to. It is in Markus Seiler's power to stop my mutilation, but he chooses not to. The head of the Air Force can stop the mutilation of my colleague, Dr. Millicent Black, but he chooses not to. And the head of Belgian intelligence, Jacques Reis, can choose to stop mutilating Melanie Richard, but he chooses not to. And similarly, the head of the Fusion Center and the head of the Air Force and whoever else is responsible for the mutilation of my colleague Ramola D, they could all stop the mutilation, but they choose not to because they're criminals, they're Nazis, and they're guilty of high treason. And they need to be locked up, or if the laws are such, they need to be executed. And these people are mutilating to death women and children. We know who they are the heads of intelligence. And there are many tentacles, but the heads of intelligence have a statutory duty to stop this, and they could stop it. But they do not. So my question to my viewers is, what are you going to do to stop the extermination program by these degenerate traitors? What are you going to do to stop these degenerate criminals? Because I am actually in Auschwitz. I am in a concentration camp. You can't expect the victims in Auschwitz and Dachau and Bergen-Belsen to break out themselves, do the forensics themselves, chase down the criminals themselves, all while being tortured. You need to do something. And I'm telling you that this extermination program has expanded and is still being expanded. Every day I can watch how Markus Seiler is training up scores of teenagers. And these teenagers are being trained up in the use of electromagnetic weapons, that they point at somebody who taught at Oxford, spent a lot of time and hard work teaching the next generation and trying to improve standards in science and everywhere. And I'm being shredded to death so that a bunch of, frankly, teenage slappers and hollow dickheads can learn how to point a microwave gun and blow to smithereens someone's brain tissue. That's where Markus Seiler places the value in Swiss society, is to train up degenerate fucktards and teach them how to run psychological warfare on normal citizens. Now, those scores of teenagers are not being taught, trained up for me. So the Swiss people have to ask themselves, and the British people and the German and the American people have to ask themselves, what the fuck are you gonna do to stop the criminals? Because those teenagers are coming for you, and they're gonna give you cancer without you noticing. They're going to rape your daughter and shoot electromagnetic machine guns into her vagina while she's sleeping at night. And they're going to chip your wife next time she's in hospital, and then some degenerate old fuck can amuse himself by setting off the chip in her vagina and her rectum. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is the reality of the modus operandum of the intelligence agencies. To the best of my knowledge, that is what they do. And now it's 2 a.m. here in Zurich, in the concentration camp run by Markus Seiler. And Walter Madliger has already informed the Swiss judiciary and the Swiss parliament before 2007, that's over 10 years ago. And the Swiss parliament did jack shit to stop Markus Seiler and his organization. And now they are running public extermination camps because the intelligence agencies have always consisted of degenerate, demented idiots. Psychopaths, serial killers, child molesters, right? People who get off on mutilating women. Utter, demented, deranged criminals. The Gestapo, the Stasi, the CIA, the KGB, MI6, all of them, the NDB. Every single decade, these degenerates are mutilating the best and brightest. And the question is, when the fuck are we going to stop them? So that's a question to you, dear audience. I hope I could show you that there's plenty of indication for a massive organized crime cartel at the heart of our societies. And I'm just going to look at the questions, actually, because there are quite a lot here. So let's see, maybe I can answer at the end a couple of your questions. It is like East Germany. Yes, that's true. One says, Dr. Horton, you are a degenerate and you are crazy. And I love it how that particular account is always commenting, regardless of what hour of the day I go online. So that's an agent account. And I can tell you, no, I'm not degenerate. I'm totally healthy. And I'm not crazy. I'm not. I'm a high energy physicist. And I am certainly not crazy. I am being microwaved because I can even show it with high frequency measuring devices. Someone says, let's shielding. No, let's just arrest these evil bastards. That's true, because to focus on the shielding and what victims should do, especially when it's coming from, the authorities, it's like having a lone, what's it called? A mad, person with a gun running amok in a shopping mall. And then the authorities or people telling single moms to go to build their own tank to go grocery shopping in. So the solution is not to stop the mad person who's shooting randomly, but it's the solution is that everybody shields themselves from these mad people. So, that's exactly it. What about subtle things like making people angry for no reason and or making them scatterbrained? What type of tech would do that? Microwave weapons would do that. Synthetic telepathy would do that. Having chips in your brain, that disrupt you. Having chips on your brain, on your head to disrupt you also would do that. All of the electromagnetic weapons. So what is the difference between active mind control and passive mind control? I have no idea. I don't actually know the answer to that question. Okay, it's been going on since Nikola Tesla. Yes, that's true. Rothschild Zionism created the Bolsheviks, communism, yes, and they created Nazism, and they created Satanism, and they create any sort of bullshit business plan that they can think of, it seems. Okay, the Committee of 300, yes, absolutely. They are part of the control architecture. Okay, is there direct contact for you? I'm a targeted professional in the USA. So my email is contact@stop007.org. But the problem is that right now I'm just so inundated, I can barely answer questions. So, I'm doing my best to actually help people, but I'm very, very, down under to actually, do something for particular people. So I'll do my best. Okay, arms sales, trafficking, drugs, military industrial complex, arms sales. Yes, that is certainly playing into it. there are significant lithium deposits in Afghanistan. I didn't know that. These deposits will be needed for electric cars. Okay, that's good to know. Okay. Electric cars invented in 1910 by Ford Motor Company. They lie about everything. I think, yes, electric cars were invented. And I think, was it Ford? Was it Ford's wife was driving an electric car? Yes. The first MK Ultra experiments were done in Utah. The CIA recruits heavily in Utah. The new NSA is being built in Utah. That's the this big storage facility. The perps are racist, sexist, homophobic, like the Utah religion. Well, I have to say I've got the same experience in Switzerland. So it's okay. Of course, CERN is a satanic project, and Dr. Horton worked there. I didn't know that CERN was a satanic project. And the project I worked on, which was Atlas, is not actually doing anything nefarious. I think the real nefarious stuff is lying elsewhere. So when all these YouTube videos tell you, oh, CERN is opening portals, no, I don't think so. I've worked on the big experiment, and it's really dull, and it's very, very hard to get at the data. And, you know, well, you get the data, but it's very hard to analyze and very tedious. But I think what's actually going on is that, you know, our societies are being taken down, and then they point the finger at random stuff like this research. And yes, you know what, I think researchers are involved as well, but the particular technology, the big accelerators, and that's honestly, that's not our problem. Our real problem are sometimes much more subtle things, like simple microwaves being turned into guns given to teenagers to give you cancer. And to take down countries. That's already bad enough. You know, forget about the portals. It's the really boring stuff that's going to kill us. Most of everything is happening in another dimension. Sorry, I'm getting Sorry, is this better? Can you hear me now? I don't know. I was just answering your questions, actually. It's amazing. It's amazing how they perk me. It's absolutely fantastic. So can you, let's see what the chat says. Can you hear me now? Okay. So now we can hear you. Okay, thank God. Okay, listen, this is what happened. I was just answering all your questions, goddammit. I didn't realize that they had, oh God, yes. So they switched between two cameras, two microphones, and one of them just doesn't work or has been perped. So anyway, God damn it, I've answered a ton of your questions. I don't know which ones you want me to answer again. One of them, which maybe I've just seen flash past, it was the Shiva statue in front of CERN. Yes, by Anthony Barrett. Maybe people are interested in that. And that's basically the Shiva statue. When it appeared in front of CERN, I remember that. Yeah, I've just seen you sound like a chimp. Yes, I know, that's the other camera. Sorry, the other microphone. It amuses Melanie Bridgeon every single time when they perp our call. Hilarious. Yes, I think it's the one perp by the intelligence agencies. Fantastic. So, okay, I think the one. Sorry, I'm reading the. I'm reading all your comments since then. I'm just catching up. So, okay. Anyway, someone asked this thing, which I think is on people's minds. Why is there a big fat Shiva statue in front of CERN? And I was explaining that I remember, because I was at CERN at the time, I remember when this statue appeared, and people mentioned it to me in the office. And I said, have you seen the new statue? And I said, no, I haven't. And then they said, oh, yes, there's, this fancy statue. It looks like some Indian, god or something. And then we figured out, okay, it's meant to be Shiva. And we all just thought, what is this meant to be? Because most scientists are atheists. So, we didn't know what the hell. And then we got to know that it was a present, I think either by the Indian government or something like that. And I think the Indian government is entirely controlled by the New World Order. So what happened is, I think the New World Order got the Indian government to give this present and then plonk it down there. And then they say, ooh, it's satanic. And look, it's the CERN people doing it. No, it wasn't the CERN people. I think they accepted a gift and they were too polite to say what. Going on about gods when we're trying to do science doesn't really fit. So CERN is satanic. Well, people say that, but it's what exactly do you mean? Because the people I worked with on Atlas, they're not satanic. Honestly, I've never seen any of these satanic symbols ever before in my life. It was only when I just left science and suddenly I saw it everywhere else. So I think what's happening is that we have this group of billionaires going around everywhere and placing down these weird symbols and then claiming that, that and they control the entire area and they control everybody in there. They've brainwashed everybody into either the Illuminati or the Killuminati, as I call them, brainwash cult, or the Freemasonry or Satanism or all of these things together. And it's like, no, you just put down a stupid symbol and then we'll use it in your narrative, pretending like everybody's part of your club, and not everybody's part of your club. In fact, most people haven't got a clue what this fucked up bullshit is actually about. Okay, Matthew Aaron says, question, is the tsunami email campaign on hold permanently? If so, why? Too much work to organize the recipient emails? Not enough participants? Are not having an effect? No, it's on hold because when Switzerland was contacted, I was shot up. And I could hold on for a week, and then I was absolutely obliterated. And the tsunami campaign has been on hold since. At first, it took me about 3 weeks to recover. Then it took me, something like 3 more weeks to actually catch up with all the things that I didn't get done when I was recovering. And then a lot of other things happened, and we now started several big projects in the background. And then suddenly the question arose, oh, damn, we have put the tsunami email campaign on hold for so long. What are we going to do? But we have put it on hold exactly at halftime. And I got so angry because they assaulted me massively. And then Frédéric Laroche contacted the French Parliament. And a week later, he was part of a criminal entrapment operation by French intelligence. So I was so angry about this because he contacted the French Parliament ahead of the tsunami campaign. And it was pretty clear that just for your democratic right of contacting your own parliament, he was, essentially locked up in a psychiatric hospital by French intelligence on a stupid, made up story. And that and my targeting made me so angry. I thought, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to restart the tsunami email campaign, but this time it's going to come back with an oomph. And this time we are going to give it an edge, and it will be released again fairly soon when I get around to it, when I've got a couple more things to do. And now the problem is that the summer break has already started, and a lot of people are already off for their holidays. So, at first we thought, okay, maybe we shouldn't relaunch it, now. But then I thought, no, actually, because the summertime is the only time when people actually get to do some real work and have time to actually follow stuff up. So the tsunami email campaign is going to come back again, and we will take it to the end. And we will do it such that this time more people support us. That's what we're going to do. Okay, are you up on any new information about 5G? No, I'm not actually, and how it plays into targeting. Well, I think it will allow people to yes, I'm just reading the comments. But the 5G, I think that the higher the frequency, the smaller the waves, so the smaller the area that you can affect. So, with 5G, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can just do it on a very small scale, and you can do it beforehand using other architecture, but when you put it into, the civilian architecture, it just gives you huge power. So, it's terrible. I think we need to, frankly, I think we need to go back to just wired connections. I'm just using Ethernet. I'm not using any Wi-Fi, and I think people should start buying these old factories that made, wired telephones, and we should have a nostalgia revival and get rid of all the mobile phones and just have wired telephones and Ethernet, I think. Okay. Did you guys burn out your RFID chips? No, I think that's really hard. Some are very, very deep. Okay, so I have to say it is now almost 3 a.m. here in Switzerland. I am running out of steam. I'm sorry about all the questions that I answered where you couldn't hear me. But anyway, there will be further updates later on this week, and I'll when I get the time, I'll edit this video and I'll cut out all the bits where you couldn't hear me. So anyway, that was a live demonstration of what it's like when you're being doubly assaulted by the intelligence agencies again. In the meantime, you can watch my interview with Carrie Cassidy, which was also sabotaged by the intelligence agencies, and the audio is atrocious. So, maybe there we can also improve the audio. But that's forthcoming. In the meantime, take care. And I'm thinking of all the victims who are being assaulted by these psychopaths and the intelligence agencies. And we will find a way to stop them. And when we stop them, we'll stop these agencies for good. We have to dismantle all these Nazi scientists and Nazi university projects, and also Nazi military research facilities that have now gone private. You know, I think a lot of the stuff that DARPA was working on are crimes against humanity, and also weapons against the Geneva Conventions. And the same is also true of other research facilities in Europe as well. And we need to actually just simply dismantle these psychopaths. Okay. So I wish you all a good night. I was just glancing back to the comments, and thank you all for commenting, and also ignite your own ideas and help me with them. You know, you have to bring your own ideas and your own little groups to this table and just attack this crime cartel from whichever direction that you can. And if we do it together, hopefully we can, you know, pick up speed. So anyway, have a good night, everybody, and you know, hope to see you soon. So bye for now and good night. Signing off from Zurich.